Welcome to Cryptic Accounts, a podcast by paranoid people for paranoid people. And this week on the show, we've got the Star Children and the Alien Hybrid Assimilation. I'm Patrick Ryan, joined by Dennis Cheney. Hi, Dennis.
Hello, Patrick. We are back, baby. We're
Yep.
back with the alien babies.
Yeah. I didn't realize how much this was going to tie into stuff we've kind of been talking about, but it really is going to. But we're going to look at kind of the human side of things in all this and maybe how they feel about it and what's going on as far as that end of the breeding and experimentation that seems to have been probably going on for a little bit now.
Ooh, okay, that's super interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Thank you all so much for listening, watching. We appreciate it. Hit the subscribe button, the like button, tell your friends. Find us on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and all that. And we'd love to connect with you. So we appreciate you being here. And with that, are you ready to get into some alien hybrid assimilation?
This is becoming my favorite thing. I couldn't be more ready, Patrick.
I mean, this is one of the things that I was actually kind of batting around before we got more into the alien hybrid theory and giants and all that. And I've kind of been wanting to put it together, and we're gonna go some fun places, I think. So let's just jump into this. Star children, Dennis, are the kids with some EHF, which is extra human functions, which an average child does not have. These are believed to be the result of some genetic changes or some relations with beings from beyond Earth. It is noted that the population of these star kids is booming. Previously, there were only a few examples, but now there are many. These kids have some capabilities which are too great according to their age. The ability of telepathy, for example, reading minds, knowledge of the past and future, great understanding, and extremely high IQs.
Are these also called crystal
Yes,
children?
that's another name for them. I believe it's pretty much the same thing. I did see it
Okay.
kind of brought up. Yeah, I think they just have different names. I think people kind of attribute it differently to where these added abilities are coming from, and I think that may lead to some of the difference in naming. So, we're going to get into breaking all that down as far as like who the Star Children are and what this group of people think about what's going on. So, but I just want to give some examples of some of these like really unique advanced children that we've seen in recent years. One example is Shu Yanu, a star kid who started reading at the age of 2 and was the youngest child to get a PhD in molecular genetics and cell biology at the age of 18.
Dookie Howser over here.
Pretty much, like he out Doogie Howser, like he outdid a fictional character. So, from where did he get such incredible capabilities of learning and grasping things which were far too ahead of his age? That's number one. My second example then is Adam Kirby. He's from Mitcham, which is a London borough, and became the youngest member of Mensa with an IQ of 141 at the age of 2.
What?
Yeah.
Isn't that like? How do you even test that? Like,
Well,
because isn't an IQ like age related? Like, wouldn't he be doing things like a 8-year-old would do or something like that? Like,
I mean that's basically what's being said, yeah, but it's so advanced for okay, so to gauge that, his IQ is higher than David Cameron, Barack Obama. He was unable to speak full sentences yet, but could spell 100 words correctly at the age of 2. And besides that, he knew most of the times tables and learned the periodic table.
oh my gosh.
So I think they found a way to quantify it, but that was my like exact reaction when I read that. I'm like, how did a 2-year-old take the Mensa exam?
That's crazy. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I guess if you. Yeah, because I think IQ is like on a bell curve.
Yeah.
So like no matter how old you are, yeah, that's bonkers, man. How old? Do you know if he's still 2 or if he's older? Like I kind of
Um,
want to follow these people.
well, we would have to look back into him. I think I left out. I mean, this would have been in the last like 15 years or so. So he's probably a teenager now at the most.
Man,
I didn't dig that far. I just kind of wanted to give a couple examples of just like these really strange,
right?
like high IQ children that were popping up, and that's just there's way more than that too. Like, that's just a couple examples. There's also a famous story of the father of Pythagoras, Menisarchus, I really don't think I said that right, who once found a child in the garden staring at the sun. So, I mean, my first thought is smart kid staring at the sun, obviously, right? Now, Menisarchus named the child Astraeus, which means star child. He took that child and gave this child to his son Pythagoras. Many researchers believe that Astraeus helped Pythagoras to crack all the mathematical equations, and he was also behind the fabulous theories of Pythagoras. No one knows from where Astraeus came. He was believed to be the first star child on Earth.
Interesting.
So back a little ways. This is supposedly the first one, and that's how the Pythagorean. I said it right so many times that now I'm going to just blow it. But Pythagoras, the Pythagorean theorem. That's what I'm looking for. There it is.
You know, that was like a cult.
Really?
Yeah, Pythagoras, like he back then, if you were like a philosopher, like or like a mathematician, like all that was intertwined with like religion and stuff, and so they
Yeah.
believed that like the world was made up of like mathematical objects and stuff.
Whoa.
So like, I wonder if the aliens taught him that, because you know they say like if a being gets advanced enough, it might like make itself a law of physics so that it never dies.
Interesting. I had not heard that. That's a weird one to wrap your head around a little bit.
It is. Well, yeah.
We're gonna have to we're gonna have to look into that. May be its own thing at some point. Looking into whatever that thing was that was going on there. Now Lloyd Pye, a scientist, was examining a skull found from rock caves. After carbon dating, he discovered that this head was 900 years old. It had a large cranial cavity and was different from a normal human skull. The thing is, though, it was the skull of a 6-year-old child. Later, the DNA was extracted and analyzed. The results were very shocking. The skull had a mitochondrial DNA which we get from the mother, but the nuclear DNA, which we inherit from both mother and father, was missing. When more quantities of mitochondrial DNA were found, then the results were scandalous. The mitochondrial DNA was not matching with the human DNA. That means the mother of that child was not human.
What?
That also means the child was not from Earth. He was not a hybrid, but was completely from outer space. Why was he here, and what purpose? Now, Lloyd Pye died at 67, but his team to this day is still working on the junk DNA found from the abnormal skull of the alien child. They are trying to decode the sequence of the junk DNA.
Crazy.
So
it had mother DNA, but
yes,
not father DNA.
yes, and the mother DNA was not anything human that we've seen. It doesn't match.
Oh, weird. Okay.
So we've got like some very early on possible star child, essentially. Maybe something that didn't work out.
Yeah.
Like an early trial that didn't work. Like they tried to engineer something and it didn't last.
I wonder how they knew it was 6 years old.
I don't know. I didn't really expand on that too much. I'm not sure. I mean, but they can with most fossils they can tell. Like I don't know how they do it, but they can tell age of humans.
But it's not a human.
Okay, well that's true. So I don't know how that age then. You're right. That's a fair question. That's a fair question. I don't know.
I've always wondered how how they say that like a certain percentage of people has like a certain percentage of Neanderthal DNA.
Mm-hmm.
I've always wondered like how's that possible? Because if you're two different species, how would you? You know what I mean? It's just anyway. We'll keep moving on to it.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's weird. It's definitely weird. So I want to. Okay. So we've kind of got these like really smart, intelligent. Like I said, some of them have like telepathic powers. Like, and there is a lot of them now. Like that have been like documented as being able to do these various things, and we don't really have any real explanation. It does seem to happen with really young kids a lot. Now, Dr. Young Hai Chi is a Korean lecturer from the Oxford Oriental Institute, and he believes aliens are here on Earth and are experimenting on human beings. Dr. Chai claims that aliens have been abducting humans for genetic manipulation purposes. He believes that these aliens are breeding with humans to create hybrids that could withstand climate change and survive the destruction of this planet. The Oxford academic believes that extraterrestrials are abducting and are working on humans without consent to create more superior beings before the end of humanity. He also claims there is a correlation between climate change and the number of abductions by extraterrestrials. According to Dr. Chi, one possibility is that they find our DNA valuable for the preservation of the stock. Secondly, to create species which can survive in future climate conditions. Thirdly, some abductees report that these hybrids are of very high intelligence. This has Dr. Chi questioning whether or not these extraterrestrial beings are creating hybrids to solve humanity's problems. The aliens that have had influence on Earth are believed to be of four different species. According to Dr. Chai, one type of species is insect like, while another has scales and snake like eyes. He describes some as small, others as tall, and some as bold in appearance. It is also believed that these species of aliens are not actually here to help the human race. Their presence is more self serving than one might think.
Well, you would think if they're super more intelligent than us, can't they just fix climate change? Like, what's the purpose of letting us die, but like melding with us? It's clearly self-serving.
Now, there's some advantage, obviously. I mean, you don't sink all this time and resource into something just because you're altruistic, I guess, just compassionate. Like, and if you were, you would be a lot more open about what's happening. I think.
Well, yeah.
And it's always kind of they're just if this is going on, there's some sort of ulterior motive that's happening. Like,
Oh yeah, just it doesn't make any sense to
unless this is
them.
just science to them.
Yeah, but why do they got to put them in us?
I don't know. We try and do a lot of weird things. We try and clone things. Like this
That's
isn't
true.
what they're doing. Really is. If we could, we would. I mean, we crossbreed stuff all the time,
Oh
and
yeah,
we genetically modify stuff to make dogs smaller, or to look like this, or to look like that, to have this trait show up all the time. Like
we're their project. Maybe they need our organs.
it's very possible too. I mean, go back to the Soul Stealers. Maybe this got something to do with souls.
Yeah, they're trying to ride on the backs of our souls.
That's possible too. I mean, we've talked about that some. But yeah, it doesn't seem great.
That's cray. Oh,
So Dr. Chi claims that the insect-like species are a dominant type of species who have control over other species of aliens. He believes that these beings are self-driven and self-serving as they depend on our survival for their own survival. He said, "They come not for the sake of us, but for the sake of them, their survival, but their survival is actually our survival as well, the survival of the entire biosphere." He also added that that is where I progressed in developing my theory, and I'm still looking for more evidence to support my view. Now, in 2012, Dr. Chi gave a lecture at the annual Anomalous Mind Management Contactee Helpline Conference, or for all those who are more familiar with it, the AMEC, highlighting the presence and visitation of extraterrestrials on the planet. Dr. Chi outlined the reason he believes aliens are on Earth, and his proposal is also based on Dr. David Jacobs' own colonization theory. Now, he believes the primary reason for the abductions is the breeding of humans with aliens to create hybrids, and the second purpose is to have these hybrids colonize Earth.
I'm voting for that right now. That makes the most sense.
Which
Because
is,
let's say they can't breathe our oxygen or there's some weird, it's like a way of having your species. It's easier than changing, like instead of terraforming Mars, you just like make humans who can live on Mars. Like
yeah.
that makes a lot of sense.
So maybe that's what they're trying to accomplish here is they need to assimilate into our atmosphere because their planet, something's wrong with it, whatever, they couldn't survive there. But they're not going to be able to survive here without some sort of suit or whatever type of equipment maybe they're using. I'm not.
Or they're terraforming us. That's their way.
That's true too.
Like they might have their own planet. They're just like they might drop off their race at different places and suit their race to whatever already lives there.
Yeah, that could be. And yeah, that does seem, again, with self-serving purposes, that seems very likely, or that makes the most sense. So, could it be that these hybrids have already been created and walking the earth today? According to Dr. Chi, aliens produce hybrids not only between themselves and humans, but also between these alien human hybrids and humans. So they go a phase two with it, which is breed them farther in.
Yeah. Okay, this is making sense.
This jiving with you? So he believes the second generation of hybrids look just like the rest of the human race as to blend into civilization unnoticed. Now, earlier in 2019, Professor Florence Roland Cerseu, who works at, I'm sorry, Florence, I apologize, who works for the National Museum of Natural History in Paris, spoke about the possibility of whether or not we are alone and whether or not we are stuck in an intergalactic zoo experiment. She said, when we try to better understand the universe, the question of whether we are alone is unavoidable. She goes on to say, we can expect the repeated, independent emergence of intelligent species in the universe, and we should expect to see more or less similar forms of intelligence everywhere under favorable conditions. There is no reason to think that humans have reached the highest cognitive level possible. And then back in 2016, on October 20th, the American Society of Human Genetics held its annual meeting, and the conclusion they reached can be easily described as staggering. The data they gathered shows that people from Melanesia? Yeah, Melanesia, an area in the South Pacific that encloses Papua New Guinea and its neighboring islands, may be packing some strange genes in their DNA. Now, the geneticist believes the unrecognized DNA belongs to a previously undiscovered species of humanoids.
Ooh. So, like, I mean, that could be a lot though, because there's a lot of different humanoids. You know what I mean? Like, there's Denisovans and
Yeah, we're about to get into some of that. Yeah, that I'm actually glad you bring up the Denisovans because that's actually where we're going next. Now,
oh, really?
yeah,
I didn't look at
uh,
it.
according to Ryan Bolander, one of the researchers involved in the study, that uh, says that the species is not Neanderthal or Denisovian,
Dang it! I thought we got one. They my
but
people.
but yeah, you are. But they're actually something completely different. He said, we're missing a population or we're misunderstanding something about the relationships. The Denisovans represent an extinct species belonging to the humanoid genus. They were named after the Denisova cave in the Siberian Altai Mountains, where the first bone fragments belonging to this species were found. Very little is known about this enigmatic cousin of ours. Human history is a lot more complicated than we thought it was, Bolander said. But piece by piece, humanity's convoluted past is brought to light, and discoveries such as this one seem to point in one direction: we might not be who we think we are.
Ooh.
Here is a quote from the study that I think you're going to appreciate, Dennis. With assumptions about population size and more recent population separation dates taken from the literature, we estimate the archaic modern separation date at 440,000 years plus or minus 300 for all modern human populations.
Oh, but separation date, does that mean us from like Neanderthal, or does that mean like Caucasians from like
I think we're talking
Mongoloid?
about from Neanderthals.
Okay. Okay, so we would have so around 440,000 years ago we would have been breeding with other
Yes.
things that aren't human. Okay.
Yes. So if that number doesn't ring any bells,
It does not.
allow me to reiterate the Anunnaki hypothesis, Dennis.
Oh.
According to the Genesis story, the 12th planet, known as Nibiru, was populated by humanoid beings very similar to us humans. After they encountered a severe atmosphere problem, they went on a quest through the solar system in order to find gold, a special metal that could heal their planet. Now, when Nibiru approached Earth's orbit about 432,000 years BC, the Nibiruans used spaceships to send people and essential goods from their planet to Earth. After they reached the surface, the advanced beings established bases in ancient Mesopotamia. Many believe this is the true story of mankind's creation. Inside the Anunnaki Genesis laboratories, this study offers insight that might answer one of our oldest and most significant questions. Who are we?
Let me ask you a question. What do you think the odds are, going back to our remote viewing episode, that they're Martians?
It's very possible. I didn't even think about that. The timeline is very similar.
It's off by about a 500,000
Well,
years.
yeah.
But it's the same idea that you have a terrible atmospheric problem and then you send ships to another planet.
Yeah.
And then they describe that planet as like a jungle. We'd be like the obvious choice.
Yeah. Well, but Martians aren't Nibiran. Like, those are two different things. That would have been two different things that are going on. If you're going with the Nibiru idea, that's a different planet that came in.
Okay.
Like that's the 12th planet.
Okay. I got you.
Which at some point we've swirled around this one before. At some point, I'm going to have to do a hard, long episode on Nibiru because there's just a lot to that and the Anunnaki and all that. But the story of Nibiru is just a very fascinating idea of like that could have caused natural disasters, like this thing moving in and messing with gravity, and just it's an interesting theory. It's a very
maybe it wasn't a planet. Maybe it was one of those planet-sized spaceships we talked about.
Also that is it still around and it's just hanging out near the sun?
That might explain why we don't see anything. Yeah.
It constantly hides behind the sun. It could be doing that too.
Yeah.
Like if they can move it, it can make sure that it never influences us by always staying on the other side of this bigger thing that has more gravity than it, so that they're not messing up everything else that's going on in the solar system, at least for us.
Interesting.
Again, we're going to have to do a Nibiru episode at some point.
I feel like that would still mess with gravity. That's my one thing with those giant ships is the gravity thing.
I understand. Well, but when you look at them, like when we look at those pictures of the Jupiter, like something Jupiter sized looks like nothing right up next to the sun.
That's true. That's a good point.
Like, that's like, yeah, it would make sense that if it's that close, it's not going to be able to mess with it. Like,
yeah,
it's going to be the sun overpowering it.
Right. If it just kind of hung out in the stasis with the sun
and made sure that whatever it's influencing again is going away from the Earth.
Yeah,
if it's on the opposite side, like it's not going to, you know what I mean? It's not going to affect things like that. It's going to be affecting because the sun's going to be taking the brunt of whatever it would be doing the other way.
Yeah, something like that.
Without getting into like some weird like magnetism like details, like
I don't know. I feel like I feel like we have a very simplistic idea of like how things affect each other. Like when we were talking about how they probably hang out on top of the sun. Like I'm sure, I don't know, but
that's true.
I'm sure, like I don't know, but they could be hanging out somewhere. Yeah, who knows?
Well,
we got them on film.
There's something big going in and out of the sun. Like we've seen it through the Soho or whatever. Like there's something going on out there.
Yeah.
And it somehow doesn't affect us. So While our science knowledge may not be PhD level, Dennis, I think we're in the ballpark on this one.
So 440,000 years ago, when we broke off, so they're saying that's when we became their little domesticated dog, basically.
Basically, yeah. So, okay. So back to like who we are. In order to obtain the irrefutable solution to this age-old enigma, we either have to dig deep where no one has dug before, but this is easier said than done. Another way to do this would be to analyze the microscopic records that are hidden away inside each and every one of us. In a recent endeavor, another group of scientists reached a similar conclusion, led by evolutionary geneticist Eske Willerslev of the Natural History Museum in Denmark. The scientists examined DNA samples taken from 83 Aboriginal Australians. They also tested 25 participants belonging to the populations native to the highlands of Papua New Guinea. To their surprise, the researchers discovered exotic Denisovian like DNA in the genomes of the study volunteers. Now, note, the researchers only called it Denisovian like, but in reality, the group that lent its genes to the ancestors of the participants is completely unknown. And he goes on to the Willerslev goes on to say, "Who is this group? We don't know."
Weird.
So, and I'm working to it. I don't want to jump my point. I'm going to keep going because I know I'm about to. I accidentally I'm going to make a point twice if I don't. It shouldn't come as a surprise, though, that such discoveries are always made when studying the genome of remote populations. Over time, these isolated groups had little contact with the outside world. They lived and procreated within closed communities, and this is reflected in their genome. The richer and more diverse your ancestry is, the less likely it is for particular genes to remain unchanged. In the case of Aboriginal Australians and Melanesians, the isolation meant fewer genes were altered over the course of their existence. So if something made something with them, but they did it with this group that's severely isolated, and then that group only procreated within themselves, those genes aren't going to change. They're just going to continue to get passed down when they're not getting muddied up or altered by any other outside population.
I don't know much about genetics, but that's
what's making these Melanesians stand out, and they were using these Aboriginal Australians as kind of a similar test. People that are extremely isolated.
Right.
So, so it's not hard to picture this alternative version of our past. The Anunnaki come to Earth, play God, and engineer mankind. They use genetic manipulation and in vitro fertilization in order to create humans in their own image. They use mankind to serve their purposes, and when it suits them, they dispense destruction in the form of a deluge of biblical proportions. A few chosen humans are protected by a faction of the Anunnaki that decided to go against protocol. They survive and spread in all corners of the globe. Thousands of generations pass, and the genomes of those who socialize the most become mingled beyond recognition.
So that's like the reverse version of like our other episode where we're saying that like God did the flood to like wipe out the Anunnaki. This is like the Anunnaki did the flood to like save themselves, basically. And they just wanted to wipe out like original humans, I guess.
Well, the argument with I see a lot with Nibiru is that that's what killed off the dinosaurs. That's what did a lot of it. Like that may have had something to do with flooding and stuff like that. Just the planet's complete everything getting screwed up by this humongous thing coming close to it.
Yeah, I'm sure that would cause gigantic tidal waves.
Yeah, so that would cause all that, and then it destroys a whole bunch, and then they show up, and then they start doing stuff. Maybe I don't know.
This is fascinating.
Like I even still, like, honestly, doing this research, I feel like actually kind of made me more confused about everything a little bit. I'm like, well, this stuff kind of makes sense too.
I'm just confused, even without the aliens. I'm just confused about why, like, if these things are other species. I don't get it, man. I don't like. Can you look at like a tiger and be like, that's part panther, or like, you know what I mean? Like, does this work with other species? Like, why are we like this weird mutt?
Uh, I mean, maybe because like we are the
Is it because
most
we're so spread out?
we're
Maybe.
we're spread out. Even at I mean, I guess back then though we wouldn't have been just from an observation level that much more advanced than anything else around us, like animals and stuff. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, we just chilling out, hunting
Like we've
things.
got fire and basic tools at that point, probably.
Maybe, yeah.
Like it's very primitive, so it's weird. Maybe we're the only one that worked, which is another thing. Like that I think we've gotten into on the show a little bit, like the Sphinx and them being possibly some sort of crossbreeding thing that was happening. We may have just been
Yeah.
the most successful crossbreeding experiment because we were the most similar to them in some way.
Interesting.
Or you're right. Maybe tigers got played with. Maybe there are
I
other
don't know.
things. I
Well,
mean,
I'm
like
just saying, like, I wonder if that's the. I just wonder because we're all. Because, like, when you talk about the Melanesians and stuff, it's like, but we're still all one species. So I just. But if you could find out that they have parts of another species and, like, then another human group has parts of another species, you know what I'm saying? Like, we're still one species, but we have pieces of different. So I'm wondering if there's, like, any other animal that
yeah,
has, you know what I mean? Like, or if we're like the only ones, because I'm sure we sequenced like other animals' DNA. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Well, I mean, the Melanesians are different than everybody else. Their DNA is different.
right, but they're still human.
Well, but I almost think we're going by almost a visual inspection on that.
Are you sure you want to lock in that answer?
Well, I don't mean it in any sort of way. I just mean like if we're identifying like they have a different like blood type in some cases.
But we can like interbreed.
Well, yeah. Well, yeah, but apparently with what's going on with the alien thing, we can interbreed with aliens too, and we're definitely not the same.
Bizarre. This is like.
Like I no, I do think they're if what's being said in all this is true, yes, they are humans, but they're very early experimentations that then weren't altered in any way with the rest of the population. Which
or
some
or they more closely resemble what the altering was,
yes,
and we got all muddled.
that's the better way to say it. There you go. Thank you for
Is what
clarifying
I
that for
think
me.
I'm reading.
No, I think that's a very good way to summarize it.
But that could be, and I don't want to be too much of a critic because this is like super fascinating. But like, couldn't that just be isolation?
Yeah,
I mean, they are like on this island chain, right? So like that just it seems like that would just happen without aliens because
that's very possible.
you went and isolated yourself.
Yeah, and that's I mean, yeah, if you who because yeah, we don't know what thousands and thousands of years of genes look like when they're just kept together like that. So you're right.
Right.
It may not be anything that's actually different than humans. It may be that just because there wasn't this wider array of traits and whatnot, it stayed to this small section.
Right. Yeah.
So I could see that.
Wild, dude.
But with everything else, I don't think that's all it is. Like just that on its own, with no further research, I can get behind that. But
But
everything else
you
we've been
you
talking
add
about,
Doogie Howser in the mix, and it's just a.
yeah, we add everything else in the mix. It's like, yeah, I don't think that's just isolation that's doing that. I think something may have messed with that a little bit. So today, though, based in the United States, there's a thing called the hybrid children community. And it is actively recruiting new breeders to be impregnated by ETs.
Whoa.
Oh yeah, we're about to get into it.
We got to interview one of these people, dude.
That is actually something that I think we could probably make happen based on some of the stuff I'm getting ready to tell you. They're pretty open about all of this. So yeah, I don't think it's a stretch to think we could probably get a hold of somebody that's into this. Maybe
It's like
that
a
maybe
special
that.
kind of furry.
No comment. Uh, so This group describes themselves as a family, a tribe, and a community of like hearted people. The HCC really wants to shift themselves into a higher dimension, and their overall aim appears to be connecting hybrid children with their human families.
So where are the hybrid children? Are they on the spaceship?
Yes.
Okay.
In a lot of cases, well, we're going to get to that. Some of them, I think, are, if it's true, they're here.
Maybe they keep like the intermediate breeds on the spaceship. Then when they get like 3 generations in, they
Nah,
start.
we're getting into what's happening.
Okay.
Yeah, that is actually isn't a terrible theory though. So that's because okay, so they're connecting children, the hybrid children, and their human families, and that's because they believe aliens have been harvesting DNA and creating human ET hybrids for a while, and now the hybrid number is into the millions. They are not just taking our children; they are creating a hybrid race to better humanity.
Oh
Quote:
man.
The hybrid children are a genetic blend of humans and extraterrestrials, Zeta Reticuli and Gray DNA. HCC co founder Bridget Nielsen writes on their website: At the moment, the children reside in a different dimension, but they will begin arriving on Earth in the relatively near future. They're excited about coming, and we, the parents, can't wait for their arrival. She was writing this about 5 years ago. This group, honestly, and as like this group, the human hybrid, what did I call them? The hybrid children community. They were very active in the early 2000s and into the teens, and then they just kind of go dark a few years ago.
The children took them.
So I haven't. This is probably going to inspire some follow up episodes. I'm going to be honest. I don't know that I'm going to continue down this path right away, but I definitely want to try and talk to these people. And they do still appear contactable. Just for whatever reason, like their big thing that they were doing as far as like telling people about themselves. They put a whole bunch of stuff up, a bunch of confessionals, like testimonials from. Like it's a pretty. There's double digit numbers on
I
people that
think
say they're
I've
involved in
heard
this.
about this. Yeah. So if the kid, I'll just let you go. I'm sure you're get to some of my
Yeah.
questions. Yeah.
Um, So the community like was founded by Sharon McCormick and hybrid mom medium. So she's a hybrid mom and she's a medium for all this, Bridget Nielsen, both of whom claim to have been in contact with aliens for years. They claim their mission is more important than meets the eye, and its roots stretch out of this reality into other dimensions. What is this sounding like, Dennis, when we talk about other dimensions?
I mean, I was gonna ask. I was gonna say, when you say the kids are in other dimensions, does that mean when they come, they're gonna like materialize, or are they gonna like impregnate you? Like.
Oh no, the children already exist somewhere else.
But I mean, like when they come.
No, they're going to be adults. They're showing up as adults.
I mean, yeah,
We're,
this sounds
we're
like.
gonna we're gonna get into it, but like no, they're connecting with them now. But it's unclear. There's different ways they're connecting with it. Some people talk about it happening in their dreams. Other people actually see them like materialize in front of them.
I mean, it sounds like seance stuff. Like it sounds like some kind of spirit interaction. You know what I mean?
Yes, that's
Yeah.
exactly where I was. Yeah, that's when I started hearing all this. That's kind of what I thought. I'm like, this is sounding like less like something from another planet and some sort of spiritual being that's around already.
Yeah, just hanging out.
And again, with the everything we've been talking about with the Nephilim and all that, I'm just like, man, is this just demons doing some other weird? Is this just a new version of Nephilim? Which is kind of what I think is happening. Like, but so it was decided. Okay, so they claim their mission is more important than meets the eye. Like I said, it was decided before any members were even born. Quote: Everyone involved in the hybridization program, whether he or she remembers here in the physical reality, made a sole agreement before coming into this lifetime to take part in the agenda to awaken humankind to our infinite expressions and reunite us with our galactic family. The hybridization program they're all a part of gave birth to 5 different hybrid races. 2 of them are known, the Cheleneye uh, and the Sassani, while the other 3 have yet to reveal details about themselves. They say the Cheleneye will be the first race to contact mankind. Full open contact will be achieved by 2025 and by 2050, and we will have been accepted into the Galactic Federation of Ascending Beings.
We like all dematerialize. Like, how do we, or do we stay in as human form? Like, what? They're probably gonna wipe us out. They're gonna. It's gonna be like a. It's probably gonna be like a Heaven's Gate type thing. Like the aliens are gonna come and be like, "All right, now we're all gonna enter our spiritual form. Just
Yeah.
drink this."
So, how exactly is the hybridization process carried out? Well, Dennis, it includes sex, of course, but according to them, it has to be consensual, which goes against a lot of things I've heard over the years. As Bridget Nielsen says, the aliens only take women who want to be taken. As a result of being taken, Miss Nielsen is now the mother of 10 hybrid children.
Oh, woof.
4 boys and 6 girls. She is regularly contacted by her offspring, who now live in giant spaceships, patiently waiting for the day they will be able to visit.
I have to talk to one of these women.
They seem to, at least as of a few years ago, they were doing interviews and stuff. We could probably get, and some of these people that have just joined, we could probably get a hold of, and we should
Just
probably
a
try.
single mom, 10 kids, deadbeat alien dad, not paying any child support.
I mean, well, she didn't even have the kids. They're on a spaceship.
That's right. She's the one not paying any child support.
Yeah, basically. So Nielsen's first sexual alien contact was with a reptilian being, and she says it was awesome. She liked it. She's into that alien stuff. So it was great, she says. It was an incredible, super primal, super raw, super primal sexual experience. There was a really freedom, and we were really going for it. It was the best sex I ever had. And throughout this website, uh, the mothers like to draw pictures of what their children look like. So some of them look more normal. Like I've put some pictures up. Some of them look more normal than others. Like there's one that's most of them just look like they have big heads with big eyes and then normal human bodies.
They look like Bratz dolls.
Yeah. And then there's one that's like green and got like purple eyes. So I don't know what's going on there.
Well, there's 5 races.
That's true. That's a different race. You're right. That would probably be more of a reptilian one then. So apparently this group is hooking up with a few different races of aliens. They're making babies on ships. From what I gather, and I didn't get too far into it, the pregnancy seems to be extremely quick, or I don't know what's going on. If they're just extracting eggs from the women and then sending them back to Earth. Nobody appears to. I couldn't find anything about anybody actually being pregnant on Earth with one of these kids. It's all happening on spaceships during abductions.
Weird. It's like an extra dimensional pregnancy or something like that.
Something, and then the kids stay there. It's unclear. The way they talked about a lot of it, it seemed like some of them are starting to be here. But it's unclear. Like I kind of wonder, like if this is all true, I kind of wonder if that's why this group has kind of gone dark. They got their people, stuff started happening. They had been trying to kind of create like an actual community. Like I think they were like trying to buy property and stuff like that to where they could all like live in like a commune kind of situation.
Yeah, maybe they got the first batch of kids.
So I mean, they got their people together, and now that was their search over the last 15 years or whatever, going back a few years, the 15 years prior to that. And now they've found the people, or at least enough of them, that they're moving forward. I don't know.
This is like super far out, Pat.
I know, right?
I
figured you were going to be into it.
This is like off the wall. we need to find one of these women. We say that all the time, but like this,
Well,
we need to find one of these women.
I think we can, but before the end, I pulled a few testimonials
Oh
from
yes,
different
please.
experiencers. And we're gonna go over a couple of the ones. There was a bunch, but I found a couple interesting, and I just pulled two. So, hybrid mothers Aluna Verse and Shelley Beth Legrand share similar stories of alien lovemaking, either aboard their ships or in some ethereal, surrealistic setting reminiscent of higher dimensions. Quote, my attitude was always, take me, I'm ready, Miss Legrand writes. I practically had my bags packed. I realize that some people have had negative experiences with abductions, but I never even thought about these trips onto the ships as abductions. I wanted to be there, and I never really experienced anything super painful or traumatizing. A little painful and a little traumatizing is what I'm reading. There was some pain there. She goes
So
on to
she
say,
kind of admits that people are abducted. That's kind of an admission.
yeah,
She's just saying, but I like it.
I was on
Yeah.
board with it, so it wasn't really an abduction for me because I wanted to be there. But yeah, had the circumstances been different, this would have been an abduction. That's exactly what you should hear because that's basically what she's saying. She goes on to say, perhaps this is due to the fact that I came in right at the tail end of the hybrid DNA program, and the Greys had simply learned how to work with humans more peacefully. Now, Miss Verse's story, Dennis, is even weirder. The mother of three hybrids claims she was brought on board a spaceship while in a dreamlike state. She says, quote, I was in a classroom setting with other humans. All of a sudden, I'm set next to this green reptilian creature, and immediately I'm sexually turned on looking at this being. I was very surprised. We're making love in this classroom in front of everyone. Everyone turned their attention to us. It sounds crazy, and people have asked if I'm off my meds, but this is really happening.
Do
According
go on.
According to the Hybrid Children Community website, there are millions, Dennis, millions of unaware hybrid parents. The only difference between these and the ones who have already joined the HCC is that the latter chose or were chosen to become aware. Now that they know, they enjoy drawing their hybrid children, who look just like you'd expect, as we were talking about a little bit earlier, kind of human, but with big eyes and enlarged heads. So, knowing that their beliefs are controversial, the like minded parents of hybrid children now seek to build a safe place where their offspring could come visit and experience the human world. Again, I wonder if this is why we don't hear from them anymore.
For real. That's yeah. I'm gonna like be googling this all night, man. Thank you. Kept me
There's a
up all night.
lot there. There's a lot there. They go on to say, and if you're wondering if you have hybrid children, thankfully, the HCC's frequently asked questions section addresses this. It says, it is likely that you're participating in some ways with the hybridization program and are choosing the reality of experiencing this incredible awakening. Most people who have been abducted have hybrid children. Tap your heart and truly ask your soul the question, am I part of this program? Do I have hybrid children? Listen, and the answer will come.
That's how you become Mormon too. You just ask yourself. That's these people are either the loneliest people on earth or they got alien babies, man.
Again, I'm not sure. I want now. I've mainly been talking about mothers because that is the big one, but women aren't the only ones involved in this. They get the
Oh,
guys too.
oh man.
And I want to introduce you to one of these guys. One of our testimonials is a man who lives in Sedona, Arizona. His name is Gabriel Salomon. He says, I've been captivated by the idea of ETs since I could remember. Looking back on it now, I see how I've been I see how I've been contact experiences having contact experiences all my life. However, my conscious experience with extraterrestrials has been gradually unfolding since about 2012. Around this time, I started to have very vivid and lucid dreams of beings on other planets and interacting with what I now understand to be various types of UFOs and ETs. I didn't quite understand why this was all occurring, nor did I understand that what I was experiencing was, in fact, a recollection of realities that I exist in outside of my human self. These nighttime experiences were what started a process within me to help me to remember the truth of why I am on Earth at this time. The words starseed and galactic federation started to show up repeatedly in my reality. It took me a long time to comprehend, but now I understand that my connection with the ETs is far more personal than I could have imagined. I now realize that I temporarily left behind my higher dimensional existence to take part in assisting the ascension of planet Earth, as many are here to do at this time. This is far from my first mission with the Galactic Federation, and I'm sure it won't be my last. Several years have gone by, and having fully conscious interactive experiences with these beings has become quite a normal part of my reality. On a regular basis, I wake up at night on a spacecraft with my galactic family beside me. I am being implanted with new energetic upgrades and taking part in the High Council meetings all the time. My paradigm shifted once again after the memory of the hybrids resurfaced in my consciousness. After watching Basher speak about the hybrids, it became pretty obvious that I was involved in this abduction program, and my genetics and energetic blueprints were being used to make little ET kitties. Now I know you're wondering, who is Basher? This
That
name
was my
pop-
first question.
this popped up a lot, and I had to go digging, and I'm still not completely sure. This is probably getting its own spinoff episode. Is crazy. So Basher is a multidimensional being, a friend from the future who has spoken for the past 35 years through channel Daryl Anka. He has brought through a wave of new information that clearly explains in details how the universe works and how each person creates the reality they experience. So I think they're all just referring to this Daryl Anka, but he's saying he's channeling this interdimensional being that's telling him all this stuff. And
Right.
so I think they refer to him as Basher, but really when they say that, it's that they're talking to this guy. And again, it was so hard not to get sidetracked on this because I started to, and it's just like this is an episode I think on its own.
But sure.
But I wanted to clarify what that is because he came up in a lot of these testimonials that I was reading of different people talk about Basher teaching them things or interacting with them in different ways. So back to Gabriel's testimonial. Waking up to the fact that not only am I a High Council member of some epic federation of extraterrestrials, but I have an entire family made from my essence that exists just outside of this reality. Doesn't get much cooler than that. As I started to interact with the hybrids in Dreamtime and telepathically, I got the intuitive download that although I do have kids, my primary connection to the hybrids is more of a sibling dynamic. Many of them are my brothers and sisters.
Is he a hybrid? Or no, he's one of these energy beings that came here to... Are we all energy
No,
beings?
he has energetic upgrades, basically.
Okay.
Like they've done stuff to him. They've modified him.
He's a
So,
$6 million man.
something like that. So, this is because my personal genetics are upgraded and are closer vibrationally to that of a hybrid's. This upgrade was necessary in order to carry out my mission at this time. Many of those who are at my age, or who are my age and younger are downloading into the Earth paradigm with these new light coatings in their genetics in order to assimilate more readily to the new frequency of the planet.
Oh, this is like This is the alien implant abduction, but it's like this whole thing is everything reversed.
Mm-hmm.
It's the Anunnaki are good, and the
Are they?
the well, no, that's what I'm just saying. Like that's what this whole
Oh, that's what these people believe. Yes.
episode is. Yeah, I mean the whole.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a complete flipping of like the other side. Yeah, this is really fascinating.
So he closes by saying, I'm incredibly honored and excited to be a part of this galactic reunion that is occurring on our planet. The more I raise my vibration, the more I realize that I play a very important part in building this new paradigm. It's no coincidence that I have found myself living with the harmonious Earth team here at the galactic headquarters in Sedona. So this is where they are.
Oh, he's
Bridget.
okay. He's part of the part
No,
of the gang.
oh yeah, this is all from the hybrid people. I didn't. Yeah, so they are. I guess they're in Arizona, Sedona. So Bridget, Kirk, Patrick, and myself, which we talked about Bridget. I didn't get into Kirk and Patrick. They are other men that are involved in this, similar to Gabriel. They are helping to bring about this new world, starting with raising our own vibration, then establishing a new economy, then establishing our communities, and lastly, welcoming the arrival of the hybrids.
Oh man. Oh man.
So, yeah, that's
Man.
that's Gabriel. Do you want to unpack any of that real quick?
So it's an invasion, if it's true.
Kind of what it sounds like, right?
And
Like
these are their traders.
basically, yeah, he's basically bragging about being a turncoat.
Oh, dang it, Bashar.
So yeah, I pulled another one. You want to hear about somebody else that's involved in this?
Yeah,
Okay.
I do.
Let's talk about Kanoa Reeler. She's from Hawaii, and she says, it was the morning after a day of playing marbles with 3 loved ones, an activity recommended by Basher during a private session that we all attended.
So does Basher live in this
I'm
community with them?
I think so. Like this, I honestly think this community, this, I think Basher. This is probably going to be more of this. That's why I didn't dig too far into any of, like all the experiences and everything, because I kind of feel like this is a lot of this is going to overlap into some Basher pod. So, but she's okay. So she's playing marbles because Basher said that's good, I guess. And she says, I never thought about whether or not I had hybrid kids. It wasn't that important to me, and I trusted, as Basher says, that when I need to know something, I'll know it. And until then, I continue to live my life engaged in activities that call to my heart.
Wait, so she joined the community without even having the hybrid kid idea. She just
I think, well, it's because they were reaching out to people to be breeders. Like, so she must have been
right.
somebody that was like thinking she wanted to be involved. And they're like, well, here's the thing. Pretty sure you already got some. We already been, that's why you're here. You just didn't realize that you were being drawn to it, but you've already had this happening. Which at that point, you got to feel kind of betrayed. You're like, but I was going to be a willing participant. They already did this to me.
Basher. This is where's this located again? Where's this like commune basically located?
Sedona, Arizona.
Okay.
So she goes on to say, I was emailing one of my friends I played marbles with, sharing with her what a lovely time I had playing marbles. I also, which I have never heard an adult talk about marbles this much. I didn't even know you could still get marbles to play with. It actually kind of, it made me kind of want to go get some marbles. You ever play marbles? Marbles was fun. Why did we quit that? What happened?
If Bashar says so.
Well, Bashar says that I'm going to have to pick up some marbles, obviously. So she says that she was emailing her friends she's playing marbles with. I also shared that I was about to leave my house and go for a run. As I was typing this, what came through my fingers next was completely unexpected. Quote, going for a run and asking my hybrid kids to come along.
Uh-oh. She found out. She knows she has them.
She accidentally typed this. Like this is like she's explaining her first like inkling of I have hybrid kids, I guess.
I enjoyed the marbles, love. I must go run with my hybrid children now.
Yeah, I mean, it happens to all of us. Our fingers get carried away, and we just type things we don't even realize we're typing. It's regular. And then I laughed, and that was that. And interestingly, just as quickly as I wrote those words and was surprised by it, I actually forgot about it. I began my run and was not motivated. I did not want to run, but I was training for a half marathon. I was tired and feeling lazy, and I didn't want to, or I didn't think I could, finish my run. I hadn't even run a mile yet. And then they came into my awareness.
Uh-oh, he welcomed them.
I said, "Kids, are you here?" And there they were, instantly. One running facing me, running backwards. Telepathically, I asked, "How many of you are there?" Immediate answer, 5. 2 more pushing me from behind, their little hands on my butt and one on each side of me, giggling, encouraging, "Come on, Mom," jumping over my head, laughing. I put my arms down to hold their hands as we all ran. They continued to encourage me, and we laughed. I asked their names. The first came forward pretty quickly, all in Hawaiian, of course. Their personalities were so evident and distinct, each one of them. Koa, a boy, he's a leader, fighter of self empowerment, one I can depend on. Aikeka, a boy, so much like his brother Koa, they get along well. He's athletic, a coach, and courageous. Kainul, Kainalu, a boy, not as intense of a personality as his brothers. He's athletic, surfs, is connected to the sea, more laid back and fluid, which I didn't understand that part. Like, I don't under.
Maybe they
He's
get vacations.
I don't know. Again, they all live in this compound, so maybe they're visiting here and they're not telling anybody about it at this point. Like we warned y'all and you didn't listen, so now it's just happening. Puamelia is a girl. She's the 4th. She's so sweet. I feel her always with her head on my heart, curled up on my chest. She likes to stay close. Kamalani is number 5. The last child's name took a while for me to receive. I knew she was a girl, and while she was sharing with me what her name is, it took about a day to register, and when it did, it all made sense to me. All the time I was running, I could feel their excitable energy all around me, pushing me, pulling me, running with me, ahead of me, behind me, jumping over my head, skipping. They were so joyous and they cheered, "She's remembering us! She's remembering us!" My kids are so sweet and loving and fun and compassionate and kind and conscious. I love having them around. They are with me often and are at times very paie. Love to be physically close, on my lap, on my head, or squeezed up next to me. I love their energy. So again, I don't know what's going on with those children. They're here, they're not here. They almost seem like figments of imagination, or there's it has a very that last one, especially with these kids and the way they appear around her and stuff. That has a very spiritual and the playfulness always. I don't know why it gives me a demonic feeling to it, but it really does.
It's almost like a tulpa.
Yeah, something.
Man. Wow, Patrick.
That's where I'm dropping it this week too.
Really?
Yeah, I'm leaving a
Oh,
bunch
yeah,
of
you're right.
questions. I'm gonna go back to like I said that there was. I think I'm doing better about not spinning off into 5 different things and making these humongous episodes so I then have to try and edit down. There's just too much to this. And
Man.
I had to kind of start somewhere with these starts. This is why I haven't done this one yet. It's because every time I come to it and start researching it, it's just like I don't know. There's so much. So I just kind of wanted to give another scatter shot, basically, of all these different little things that kind of connect to things that we're talking about, but are a completely different view on them.
You threw me for a loop there with Basher, oddly enough.
I know, right?
That was like the shoe that dropped.
Well, and like I was telling, I mentioned it before the show. Like that was the thing that I was like, I think there's going to be a spinoff episode out of this, just based on that. And his involvement in all this, like,
well, I want to interview these people. Yeah, I want. Yeah, yeah. Maybe we can talk to Bashar.
I mean, from what I gather, and I don't know how recent it was, obviously, with the way things have been going this year, he was like doing like lectures and stuff, though.
Daryl Anka.
Like you can reach out to him. He had a website. I looked at his website. I didn't really use any of that because it basically seemed like him selling himself essentially, and these views. And I don't want to put labels on anything.
I'm not gonna put the label on it.
I'm not gonna say the word that we're all thinking right now. Not gonna do it. Not gonna do it. But I would like to interview them and talk to them because I am some of these experiences, and the more I read through them, like there's a lot of people that believe something like this is going on, and for them to have all had. Anytime I see something repeated multiple times, it kind of becomes like that's weird, but why do you all think that's happening?
Right.
There has to be an explanation. There's something happening. I'm not convinced that it's Anunnaki. Again, especially with some of these experiences, I lean with this. They're on spaceships, but they're interdimensional. I can hear them. Sometimes I can see them. I can feel them, but they're not there.
Sounds very fairy kingdom-ish.
Very spiritual. I mean, I've just spiritual in some level. Whether it doesn't seem angelic, so demonic is where I lean next.
I gotta give it to you, man. You threw me for a loop. For all the stuff we've talked about hybrids already, you got me, man. You got me.
I found some good twists and turns, didn't I?
I'm not. I'm a little bit just in shock that I just.
Yeah, I've been sitting on this for a few days, man. It's been really hard not to talk to you about it.
Good work, brother. I like the word sexualien.
I like that too. I did. They put that in the UFOlic did a whole bunch of stuff on all this stuff. It's the website that I went to for a lot of this information.
Oh,
they put together some really good research.
I mean, where do you come down?
On which part? I mean, I've kind of stepped through it as we've gone along. I do think again, back to the Nephilim and everything else. I think this is just people being deceived in a different way to do the same thing. Like if I have to pick one thing,
right?
But again, I feel like there's a lot more information out there to grab on this that view may shift. I'm not saying that I'm positive on that at all. But just the weird elements of here, not here.
Yeah.
You appear different places. Nobody really talks about, well, I guess there was some talk of being on a spaceship, but he doesn't talk about traveling to the spaceship. He's just there.
I mean, to me, again, this sounds identical to the abduction phenomenon.
Yes.
It's identical.
Yep.
It's just that these people like it.
Yeah, that is really, I think, the main difference in all this is they don't view it as some sort of an attack because they want to be involved in it. Either that or it's like some weird Stockholm syndrome that's going on.
Right.
Which I don't know. I mean, that's possible too. Like these things are able to genetically modify things. Like who knows? Like maybe they can do something as far as a drug or something that just, you know what I mean? The different women that talk about like these euphoric, ecstasy-like states. Maybe that's drug induced.
Maybe
they have a drug that makes you really get into reptilians sometimes.
Maybe Bashar's dropping acid and everyone's
it's possible too.
Everyone's coffee.
But I mean, as I read through, some people talked about experiences before they were even aware. Like they sought out this human hybrid, this community, or this hybrid children community, sought it out because they had something happening to them, and
this is a phenomenon that I vaguely knew existed. I'm sure, like maybe when it was popular, like a few years ago, I'd heard about it, but I've never got that far into it. It's just so fascinating.
I hadn't either. I had also brushed past what started it was just a couple articles that I'd seen in passing about the mothers, and that was really what kind of started it. And I just thought it was like originally I thought it was like 2 or 3 like people that some writer had found that just said some weird stuff, but there's like a big group of people out there.
Yeah, I remember vaguely 10 or so years ago. I remember seeing like a video of like someone talking and showing a picture of her star
Well,
child.
and that's when they were searching people out. Like I said,
Yeah.
they were very active in like being open about all this and looking for people that like throughout the website it talks about like if you think you're one of them, do this and this or contact us. Like it seems like they were trying to get people together. And again, I don't know, like because this is going to be a follow up. Them and Basher, I think, just the community or whatever they're doing, and maybe try and talk to some of them to figure out what's happening. Are they all
Yeah.
there? Like, how does that work?
Have they had to spread out? Is Basher still around?
Yeah, that guy's still around. Like I said, he was like the Anki or Anka or Daniel Anka, I think his name was.
I think it was Daryl Anka.
Daryl Anka, yeah. Like I said, his website. I don't know what's going on this year, of course, with COVID and everything that's going on, and obviously normal things aren't necessarily happening as far as like group gatherings and stuff. But he was like he did lectures and like you could get in touch with him.
Man, I don't know if I'd want to go that Anka far, but maybe. I that's Oh man, this is good job, brother.
Thank you.
Good job, hermano.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. I hope everybody else did. I hope you're all as confused and bewildered as I am right now.
Yeah, I'm just trying to make sense of a lot of this. I just keep the only thing my mind can do right now is just keep. It's the same thing. That's all I
No,
can just keep saying. I just get yeah. It's almost like yeah.
yeah, it's being painted in a different way, but yeah, you're right. It's the exact same thing, and that's part of what I thought was going to really come together with this episode was just that contrast of those two ideas, like
Right, right.
seeing the same thing from two very different angles.
Exactly.
So yeah,
Oh wow,
you
good
you had
job.
complained and complained that I just didn't do enough alien stuff, and I've gone off the deep end now.
Now I gotta go weirder than this. How's that
Yeah,
possible?
how are you going to out weird me, Dennis?
I'm gonna have to summon Bashar and just do a full show as Bashar.
I mean,
Well, welcome to Cryptic Accounts. I am Bashar.
I'm now channeling Bashar. Well, thank you all so much for listening. We appreciate it. Tell a friend, hit subscribe, like, do all that stuff. We appreciate it. And get in touch with us if you want to add anything or got a comment. We appreciate it. We read all that stuff. We do pretty good about responding to them, unless you write us something that's going to require us to do a bunch of research. So then you probably hear about it on the show eventually. But still do that. Like, we find it very intriguing. There's just definitely times where I'm like, I don't know how I stand on that right
I
now.
must go to the library.
I must go to the library and do a bunch of research now. But yeah, thank you all so much, and we will be back next week with Dennis hosting, trying to out weird the Star Children. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Love you,
Bye.
Dennis.
Love you too.